Yo, what is up guys, it Ghost here, welcome back to another Battlefield 6 news roundup. We have a number of interesting things to cover today. First of all, Temporal, the famed data miner, has found a new game mode in the game. It's called Gauntlet mode. It seems to be like a competitive mode that is not similar to Battle Royale, but it is played on the same map. So I want to talk about that. Then we have enter vehicle animations that is coming via Flakfire, at least according to him. They are going to be in the game, even though they weren't in the beta or the alpha. And then finally, I want to talk about this whole color grading drama. I've been away over the weekend touching some grass with the family, and I've come back and there's this whole color grading drama thing going on, so I want to touch on that as well. As always, if you guys enjoy the content here on the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Plenty more to come on Battlefield over the next coming months and, well, hopefully years. And thank you guys, as always, so much for your ongoing support. Alright, before I say anything else, can I just say, DICE, if you're listening out there, can you please bring down the experience required per point to grind the free battle pass in Battlefield 2042. I cannot be the only one who is absolutely ripping my hair out. I've seen screenshots from people who are like level 20 and 30 in the battle pass, and they need 30, is it 30,000, 300,000, some ridiculous number. I think it's 30,000 experience per point, and you need 10 points just to get one tier up. So if you're not aware, it basically exponentially increases per point that you gain. So once you grind up to like level 20 or 30 or 40, you're going to be going absolutely nuts. And the reason they've probably done this is because each week you get these missions, and the missions give you points, right? So they want you to log in every single week leading up to BF6 to complete those missions and progress in the battle pass. You can't just grind it all out in 1 week and then uninstall the game once you've got your BF6 skins. That's clearly their point here, but there are things that are locked in the battle pass, like the new weapon, like the new vehicles, that people just can't get access to yet, and that just kind of sucks. So maybe, you know, in a battle pass where people are only really coming back to play your game because they want the BF6 skins, just think about toning it down just a little bit. Alright, with that said, let's move on to the data mine here, the leak from Temporal. So he says, a summary of Gauntlet, a squad elimination mode in Battlefield 6, uses the Battle Royale map, 4 missions per match, various mission types, so you've got capture the flag, etc., and then modifiers like sudden elimination, custom settings via portal, and then likely going to be free to play as well. So as I said, it's going to be on the Battle Royale map, so it's probably going to come out whenever the Battle Royale comes out as well, and outside of the regular Battle Royale game mode, you're going to have this one. Now, he does have a nice slide of information for us here as well. So he says, how to play. Fight together as a squad to complete a series of 4 missions. Squads with the lowest scores in each mission are eliminated. So that sounds a little bit like the finals there. In the final mission, the first squad to reach the point target is the winner. The better your mission results, the more your field specs improve. Gauntlet uses the Battle Royale map as its location. You can probably customize the mode via portal, and it will most likely be free to play. Okay, interesting. So this sounds like you start off with like a number of squads. It's not clear how many squads we're going to have here, but each round, certain squads will be eliminated, and whoever's left standing is then going to be the victor. Oh, look at that. I think I can make it a bit bigger for us there. That's better, isn't it? Okay, let's take a look at the modifiers then. So it says the mission briefing indicates if a modifier is active, so you can see if they're on there. So we've got sudden elimination here. Instantly eliminates you if your squad is wiped. Well, if your squad's wiped, surely you're already eliminated. Okay, I'm not too sure how that one works. Maybe I'm being dumb here, but let me know if I am. Point multiplier. We've got doubles points earned in the final minute of the mission. Okay, that sounds good. And then we've got mission types here as well, and it says Gauntlet missions are selected in random order and placed in randomized locations. So I guess you have to go and like start these missions. So we've got Vendetta here, take out marked enemies in hostile squads, survive as a high value target to earn points. Wreckage, pick up bombs to blow up MCOMs, fuse starts right after the bomb pickup. So you got to like run with the bomb to the MCOM and get it on there. Okay, that sounds pretty nuts. Then we've got Circuit, claim and hold nodes like in Chainlink. Controlled nodes automatically spot hostiles. So for anybody who isn't aware what Chainlink is, it's a game mode from Battlefield 4 where you have to link essentially conquest flags together. And if one of those flags falls out of the chain, then I think like you don't get any points, and that sounds similar to that there. Then we have contract, track and eliminate enemy squads, squad deploy only, a wipe results in elimination. Then we have heist, capture intel caches from the hostile HQ, carriers are always marked for the enemy. And then we have extraction, retrieve data drives and deliver them to drones, check drones for traps to avoid an ambush. We're familiar with that one, of course, from Hazard Zone in Battlefield 2042, although that was not much of a success. And then we have deadlock, secure and hold zones with your squad, split up to capture more zones for extra points. And then decryption, secure and decrypt any beacons you find, sprinting pauses the decryption process. Sprinting pauses the process, okay. So I guess you have to like hold on to these beacons, you moving around with them, and if you sprint, then it stops the decryption process there. And it also says additional mission references are Hotwire, Swarm, Territory, and Relay. And yeah, so there's maybe like 4 more there. What have we got there? 8 plus 4, 12 different missions. So it sort of sounds to me like this is going to be some sort of a, you know, more leaning into the competitive field of Battlefield, where, in a way, again, like the finals does, right? That's how that works. You start off with a number of squads or a number of teams, and you get eliminated one by one. And at the end of it, there's like one final victor. It's going to be very interesting, I think, to see like how many people actually play this. Is this something that would interest you guys? It's something fairly new, I think, and it would go alongside the Battle Royale pretty nicely. Like, the whole Battle Royale thing is kind of new to me, because you guys will know from watching my channel, I don't really play those sorts of games, but since this is Battlefield, like, of course, I'm definitely going to go and try it out, and I do wonder if maybe this is going to be the one that actually draws me in. But let me know what you guys think as well. Okay, moving on from that, let's take a look at this new news about vehicle enter and exit animations. So this is a screenshot here from one of Flakfire's videos, it looks like. And somebody says here, is there or are there animations for entering vehicles? This is very important information and I may not buy it. If not, well, first of all, this guy is being way over dramatic, saying, I'm not going to buy the game if there are no enter vehicle animations. Like, okay, dude, whatever. But Flakfire says, I'm told there is, but they were not in the LA build. So the LA build is like the one that the content creators were playing, and then subsequently the one that we all got to play in the beta. And he says, wait, who told you? And apparently Flakfire says a dev. So it seems like he had an interview at some point, or at least a communication with one of the developers, and they confirmed that there is going to be enter and exit animations for the vehicles. Now, I'm not a massive fan of this. It has to be said. I feel like it just makes the vehicle gameplay too clunky. I know a lot of people do like it because it's like more realistic and it's more immersive. You know, if you're blowing up a tank, you can't just jump out of there, right? You're like in the middle of the animation, and that person is going to get the kill. But it also just makes using vehicles as a vehicle player an absolute chore. You know, one of the main, especially in Battlefield 6, where like the tanks are absolute glass cannons, you need to be able to jump out of there quickly, you know, get behind your tank, start repairing it, get back in there, do a bit of damage, because you're so open to just so much damage from engineers and C4 from the recons in BF6 that if you have to go through a lengthy animation every time you get in or out, there's just no point getting out, right? You're not, that whole part of the gameplay where you get out and you repair your vehicle is pretty much going to be non-existent, or you're going to have to back up all the way off the flag so far away that you're completely safe getting out. So I'm not really a big fan of that. You know, hopefully it's maybe just going to be entering like animations, like when you first get in the vehicle, there'll be an animation, and then once you're in there, you can get out and get back in again as you please without an animation, and that's just, again, for sort of like one of the start around thingies. I have to say, though, I find it quite ironic if they are adding these animations that they don't have, you know, takeoff animations for the jets. Like, the jets just blip into the sky out of nowhere. There's no runway, there's no aircraft carrier, there's nothing for the jets to take off of. So if we're talking about immersion and realism here, what the hell is up with that? You know, like, if you're going to leave that out, I don't see how vehicle animations make a lot of sense. But again, maybe that's just me, guys. And finally, let's touch on this whole color grading debacle, this drama that has just seemingly come out of nowhere for Battlefield 6, and didn't seem like it was much of a problem before. So what has happened, just to fill you in if you weren't aware, this guy has created a brand new YouTube channel called Vic's Corner here. He has one video, And is this video here. It's called Why Battlefield 6 Looks Like That, aka Degraded. I watched this last night. It had like 150k views. This morning, it's almost doubled in views. He's gained 7,000 subs off of this one video alone. So this is like, right, kind of nuts where he's going, but I'm not going to show you the whole video. I'll leave it linked in the description if you want to check it out. Basically, this guy is obviously very clued in. He knows a lot about the color grading process for video, for film, for photography. And he's going through the differences of color grading for various Battlefield games. So DICE obviously focused on certain areas, like with Battlefield 3, we know they had this like crazy blue tint going on. With Battlefield 2042, they really cranked up the saturation. For other titles, they had a lot of like contrast and things like really sort of popped. And then one of the things he states in this video is that Battlefield 1 is probably the one Battlefield game where they did do some color grading, because they always do these effects on every Battlefield game, but it was sort of more in the background. It was much more subtle, and as a result of that, Battlefield 1 was therefore the Battlefield game that looked the best, looked the most realistic, and I think we can all agree on that. And looking at Battlefield 6, while it looks great, I think some people, I have seen at least, complain about the filters, as they call them, or the color grading on the game on certain maps, and then it looks a little bit blue tinty, a little bit Battlefield 3. Anyway, since that's happened, like, people have been going nuts over on Reddit. Like, people have just been really losing their minds about this, which is funny because, again, I saw people complaining about it before, but nobody cared or really listened. This was not a critique of anyone. I did not see a single, at least YouTuber, who made a video on their critiques of the beta talk about this. And as soon as this guy puts out a video, now it's just like the biggest problem in Battlefield 6. But this guy here does have some interesting comparisons of the beta, so let me just flick back through these. Okay, here we go. So this is, of course, the Siege of Cairo. So this is how the color grading has actually changed from the alpha to the beta. So this is the alpha here, and you can see it's quite yellowy. I would say a little bit more readable, and this is what the beta looked like. Much more washed out, I would say, a lot more sort of dusty looking, much more realistic looking though as well. Here again is the alpha, and you can see here it says Battlefield Labs pre-alpha, so this is like obviously screenshots here from the labs testing, and here is the beta. Here's the alpha again, beta, and then one final alpha and one final beta, and especially on this one, you can actually see how in the alpha, it's much more readable. Like, you can see, like, if there was an enemy coming around that corner there. In this shot, though, there's, like, so many dust particles and sun rays and stuff coming through. I actually did really find the readability on this map, specifically, to be very difficult for me. We got one more here as well, alpha and then beta. So I think the colors have really been washed out so much here that it looks a little bit drab, actually, and you'll see that in this Vix guy video. One of the things he does is he basically just increases the saturation across all of the levels, and we can see a bit of a example of that here that somebody posted. So this is obviously screenshotted from Vic's video here. This is the filter here that Battlefield 6 put on the game, and this is with no filter. And by no filter, what he means is he has gone in and tried to regrade this as best he can to remove whatever DICE have done to the game, if that makes sense. And you can see, I agree, it looks a whole lot better. Like, in the background here, we have much more saturation. The leaves on the trees are much more green. You've got much more color in the fire here. This line on the ground, the red parking line or whatever this is, you can see the red there much better. Here you can see it, but it's a lot more faint. But I do want to make it clear that this is nothing new, right? This is something that I do for every single thumbnail. Whenever I take a screenshot of the game, I crank up the saturation. I crank up the contrast, right? I make things pop a little bit more with more brightness. Is that, though, the way that I would actually want to play the game? It works great for a thumbnail, it works great for a still image like this, and it makes people maybe want to click on that, but I'm not necessarily sure it is the way I would want to play the game. And just to give you guys, more examples here, here's a new post on Reddit saying almost nobody complained about the filters in the beta until a YouTuber told them to think that way. And this has like 14,000 upvotes. I find this very funny that people are now just like going nuts about this, and I'm like, is this really that big of a deal? I don't know, maybe maybe I'm just underplaying this. Maybe it is a big deal. If it is a big deal to you, by all means, let me know down in the comments. But on one of the posts here, I think it's this one, and I do want to draw you guys' attention to this because we did get a reply from Kevin Johnson, the community manager. If I can find this, I actually can't find it. Typical. Here it is. Total FPS Global Community Manager. So he says biomes, temperatures, and creative intent should be taken into consideration when it comes to these things. It isn't a filter, it's the actual atmospheric vibe of each particular location. Maybe one day we'll sit down with the level designers and chat through this stuff, showing what goes into their hard work. So what he's saying here is it's not just like some filter that they slap on every map. You know, first of all, it's graded differently depending on the map and also depending on where you are on the map. Like interiors and exterior parts of the zone are graded differently there as well. Now, I don't know if this is potentially an area that DICE could work on. Obviously, we've seen that there have been significant changes between the alpha test and the beta test. So who's saying they can't make new changes between the beta and the full release of the game? You know, perhaps they can. But I think I do have to mention here, whilst I do agree with like Vic's point here and his video, whenever I've looked at his footage, that he's regraded, I do agree with the majority that it looks better, but you also can't just take like a few little clips from one video, a few screenshots, regrade those and say, okay, that's going to be better for gameplay. You know, you might just look at it and say, oh, the game world looks better, it looks more beautiful, but that's not the only thing that matters. What also matters are things like readability. You know, how do the camos of the soldiers blend into the backgrounds or stand out from the backgrounds and etc. And what are DICE really trying to go for? Like, there are a lot of, I'm sure, small details that goes into the color grading process in designing and deciding what do we want a map to play like, what do we want the map to look like, and what sort of an atmosphere do we want to create here. And I'm sure that the people who work on the color grading at DICE, they think long and hard about this before they do it. I don't think they just like slap an Instagram filter on there and go, ah, that'll do. You know, I mean, we can tell as well with Battlefield 6, they put a lot of effort into this game, and I think it shows. So I don't know, you know, I kind of agree with him, but I also don't agree that like DICE should just go and crank up the saturation on everything and crank up the brightness and just regrade every single map so they all sort of look the same. It would require, you know, a lot of small tweaks, and you shouldn't just judge like some tiny little clips from a video on what the game could be like. But I definitely understand everybody's point. I will say, for me, in conclusion here, it just don't really matter that much. You know, it's just like, it's honestly something I never really thought about until I watched Vic's video. And, you know, again, upon looking at his footage, I am like, yeah, okay, hey, this does kind of look better. And when I crank stuff up in Photoshop myself, like the saturation, I do also feel like it looks better there. But at the same time, I don't really get why people are kicking up a huge fuss about this. But maybe I'm in the minority here, guys. So as always, leave me your thoughts on this down below in the comments. I'm honestly just happy that people care about Battlefield enough this time around. They're talking about the game, even though it may be, you know, on the negative side of things. At least they're discussing it, and I think that shows that they do care about this game succeeding. As always, if you enjoyed today's video, leave a like below, subscribe to stay up to date with everything Battlefield, and I will see you guys in the next one.